Our childhood experiences was a necessary step as part of the developing nature of our maturity. We had those memorable happy times where we watched educational yet sugar-coated fever dreams.
That's a great idea, Z. Can we connect the yellow car here? Yes is right. Look at this perfect pattern. Yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow. Thanks for your help. Maggie and the Ferocious Beast is coming up soon.
The world of genetics belongs to you. We're going to the world of genetics. The world of genetics, a magic adventure to somewhere new. Together we fight all the forces of evil. All heroes unite. It's time to stand up for what is right. We'll learn what it takes today. The speed and the power to go all the way. You're part of the team now. You're ready to go on an adventure to save the world. Fly with me. We're going to the world of genetics. Fly with me. Come on. The world of genetics belongs to you. Yeah. Belongs to you. Belongs to you. The world of genetics, a magic adventure to somewhere new. The world of genetics belongs to you. Welcome to the world of genetics.
And to our heart's content, want to eat junk food constantly. There was also those sad times. When we got yelled at for getting a bad score on a test, or your friend Tommy got yelled at in class for a very horrendous reason.
No pomegranates!
To add to the mix, this one thing, that one little spark, which is a combination of all our childhood fantasies combined, is Chuck E. Cheese's.
Ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages, at Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater, the show never stops. Step right up and have a blast in games of skill and daring. Join in and howl to your favorite tunes from all time. You'll experience the thrill when you bounce, dive, and scream in Chuck E.'s playground. Then dazzle your taste buds with the most perfect pizza on the planet. Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater, where the show never stops.
How parents eat pizza. How you eat pizza. Chuck E. Cheese's. The real cool place to be a kid. Parents don't have to get it. They just have to help get you there.
This once revolutionary establishment is a fun playground for kids young, old, and maybe for kids of heart like your Uncle Joe, who's 75 years old, that never had a pleasant childhood and will relive that for once. Except parents of the kids there would think he's a bit cuckoo crazy because, I mean, it would be completely normal to see a middle-aged man, elderly man, young man, mega man playing on the arcade machines and having a birthday there, right? Right?
Thank you. It's great to be here with you to celebrate these amazing birthday stars. Now, for those of you who don't know, when you celebrate your birthday at Chuck E. Cheese's, you are the star of the show. In fact, on the count of 3, let's all wish these stars a great big happy birthday. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday!
That was pretty good. But I think we can do better than that. Come on now, give it everything you've got. Again, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday!
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday! Yeah! That's more like it. Great job!
Okay, I'm going to talk about the history of how this brand of pop culture came to be and the future outcome to what's going on with the pizza-loving mouse and the place where a kid can be a kid. This was my favorite place to go to when I was a kid to have a good time, and I'm sure you all have fond memories of this place. Stop! Before I begin, make sure you subscribe, like, and click that notification bell. My goal is to reach as many subscribers as possible, so give some love and support to this channel for more exciting entertainment content. With enough pleasantries and stalling out of the way, let's get right into the tale of how Chuck E. Cheese became the #1 place on earth where you can be a kid again and witness exhilaration like never before.
G Game Master 16.
In this long story, we'll get started with talking about a guy named Nolan Bushnell, who's the founder of the gaming corporation Atari and the Chuck E. Cheese brand / Chuck E. Cheese Pizza Time Theater. Born in Clearfield, Utah on February 5th, 1943, he spent his young days growing up at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When he reached the high school and college phase of his life, he had a job at the Lagoon Amusement Park, where he saw for the first time the interest people had for gaming, seeing many carnival games in the midway section of the park. He liked the concept of getting people pumped for games and to be able to pay a fee in order to play them. He later went to the University of Utah College of Engineering and received a bachelor's degree in 1968 for electrical engineering. On a side note, he was also associated with a frat group called the Pi Kappa Alpha. He was among the first few students in college to get into computers as part of the computer graphics program. He had the opportunity to have a chance to the game Space Wars that involves 2 spaceships have to conquer the gravity of the sun and the inertia of their ships. After attending University of Utah, he went to Stanford University as a graduate student to study business. In 1969, Nolan and his colleague that he worked with at the Ampex video equipment making company, Ted Dabney, formed the company Syzygy to produce a Space Wars clone known as Computer Space. Dabney developed a prototype of the machine, and Nolan come to an agreement with Nutting Associates to get their game onto the market. It was a commercial bust even though it exceeded $3 million, and they had to repair pinball machines to support the company. Nolan and Dabney realized later on the name Syzygy was already in use by a candle company owned by the Mendocino hippie commune, including a roofing company. So they changed their company name to what will be forever known as the first video game company, Atari, in 1972.
Okay, Atari, let's see your best pitch.
You're out, Rose.
I quit soccer to play Atari.
You need more practice, Haley.
You can't keep me in here, Atari.
The Atari video computer system is 20 cartridges with 1,300 game variations you play on your own TV set. Don't just watch television tonight, play it.
They named it Atari because Bushnell referenced it to a check-like position in the game Go, his quote, favorite game of all time. Bushnell and Dabney left Syzygy and set up their first office on Sky Boulevard in Sunnyvale, California, and worked with Bally Manufacturing to make a driving game and hired another employee, an engineer named Alan Alcorn. Nolan soon pushed Dabney out of the company due to his greed. In an interview for Ted Dabney by Chris Garcia recorded on July 16, 2012, it specifically explains on page 20 that Dabney didn't like how Nolan was acting because what Nolan said to Dabney resorted to them being on bad terms, which was the only things that's going to change is the number of zeros, because the relationship with money is always the same. Well, that was a pretty dumb move. To top it all off, Nolan invited Dabney to his mansion he bought, and they were playing snooker on the top floor. Then Dabney won, and they went back down to the first floor. This lady asked Nolan who won, and he said, "I don't remember." If you want to know more about what went on between them, I'll put a link for the Ted Dabney interview below in the description. Moving on, after a Burlingame, California demonstration of the Magnavox Odyssey, he tasked Alcorn of turning Magnavox Tennis into a coin-operated version as a test project. Alcorn made many improvements into the game's design as to speeding up the ball up faster as you continued to play, and the first arcade game, Pong, was born. It was a huge success, and Atari released many Pong arcade games as a staple of the company. In 1974, Atari entered the consumer electronics market after engineers Harold Lee and Bob Brown went to Alcorn to give him the aspiration to make a home console version. With the marketing and distribution negotiation related to Sears, Pong sales went up when the units released in 1975. Bushnell later rejected making computers at the time when Atari employees Howard Cadden and Ron Wayne printed to PCB, printed circuit board, and then two of the non-Atari employees, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, both who previously been involved in the development of the Atari game Breakout, created and marketed their own computer. They gave the design to Bushnell, but he wanted to focus more on his home console and arcade market. In 1976, Steve Jobs wanted Bushnell to pay him in return for a small equity in Apple. Bushnell already had enough on his plate despite having ownership of a third of Apple, over 50 grand, so he said no. In that same year, Atari was developing the Atari VCS, video computer system later renamed Atari 2600, but Bushnell wanted to push the envelope in order for the company to expand, so he needed more capital regardless of the stock market being bad. Bushnell made a list of people to buy Atari. Meanwhile, Steve Ross, CEO of Warner Communications, saw his children hovering around video game cabinets at Walt Disney World. Then, Warner Communications was contacted about Atari by one of its investors to discuss purchasing the company for $2.8 million. Warner Communications, now Warner Media, bought Atari, which gave the Atari Corporation the dough they needed for the VCS launch that took place in August 1977. During the noon run of Bosses, they ignored a lot of Bushnell's ideas, except his pizza parlor with animated entertainment idea was greenlit. Bushnell began to build a team of people called the Atari Restaurant Operating Division and talked about his original concept, using audio animatronics in a pizza restaurant. Bushnell hired a man named Gene Landrum as the general manager of the Atari Restaurant Operating Division, and he began to look for a company to create the animatronics. Then the Fantasy Force Manufacturing Company took interest. Fantasy Force was owned by Harold Goldbranson, a fabricator of mascot costumes. One day, Bushnell went to the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, IAAPA, went to a booth and thought he saw a coyote costume. Then that gave him the idea to call his place Coyote's Pizza. When he got the costume, it was a rat costume with the pink tail giving it away. In Bushnell's mind, he thought this was a good opportunity to compete with Disney, so he named the costume Rick Rat. But Ricky Rat seemed a little too similar to Mickey Mouse. Eventually, he dropped the name due to legal issues. Landrum also hired Robert Bob Allen Black, a previous Atari worker, as an artist for the concept of a rodent character. Bushnell pushed Black to draw something that looked like the costume. Landrum created the name for the whole concept called The Big Cheese, which was also the name for the mascot rat, but the name was already trademarked by a company called Marriott with its own chain of restaurants. Atari didn't like the name and wanted something new and unique, so that's when it was named Chuck E. Cheese, as it was related to Mickey Mouse, and it just puts a smile on your face when you say the name. Joining Chuck E. Cheese, many supporting characters were developed, including Krusty, a black and white baseball playing cat, Billy, Banjo Boggs, soon renamed Jasper T. Jowis, a hillbilly hound dog, Pasquale, the Italian chef, and the Warblets, a trio of singing magpies. These were the original Pizza Time Theater team and were made in animated form by Goldbranson. Landrum hired Larry Emmons and the team at Cyan Engineering, often referred to as Atari Grass Valley, to design the control system to make the show work. The moment you all have been waiting for, the first Pizza Time Theater opened in San Jose, California in 1977.
Guess what all of the Pizza Time players have done now? They've invented a Chuck E. Cheese cube, and it's available only at Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time theaters. Pizza and fun have always gone together at Chuck E.'s place. Great tasting pizza made with the finest mouth-watering ingredients. Characters guaranteed to make you laugh and smile. And right now, own your own Chuck E. cube. It's only 99 cents with the purchase of any large pizza. What a value. So hurry in now.
The building was 5,000 square feet, and it was the first restaurant of its kind, featuring a mix of pizza, animated entertainment, and an indoor arcade. The unique aspect of Pizza Time Theater was the animatronic show life-size animatronic critters that was in faux picture frames, which entertained guests free of charge, and Pizza Time Theater became a success. They switched the animatronic characters out every now and then to keep it fresh, with Helen Henny in August 1977, Madame Oink in February 1978, and Foxy Colleen in October 1978. Bushnell asked his former partner, Ted Dabney, to develop an improved pizza ordering system called Notalog, N-O-T-A-L-O-G. As the business was booming, Warner Communications gave Bushnell full ownership of the brand for $500,000 in 1978. Another location opened in San Jose on Coles Road, being 19 square feet. Also, new attractions were added, such as a room featuring Dolly Dimples, a piano-playing hippo, and a Fantasy Forest game preserve. Then changed the Warblettes for the Mopsy Sisters, and swapping Krusty the Cat for a new purple monster named Mr. Munch. Later, in 1979, Bushnell already left Atari in '78 and made a deal with Bob Brock, president of Topeka Inn Management, TIM, for $200 million. That gave Brock the right to open Pizza Time Theater in 16 states, with 200 operated by TIM and another 85 to be sub-franchised. In a matter of time, Brock turned his back on Bushnell because he and his associates didn't want to become franchisees, so they went on their own to compete with Bushnell. There is definitely a lot of drama going on. Brock worked with Creative Engineering Incorporated, CEI, President Aaron Fetcher in December 1979 after he severed ties with Bushnell. Brock signed a pre-incorporation agreement with Fetcher to create Showbiz Pizza Place Incorporated, that 80% of it is owned by Brock and 20% by Fetcher. CEI's animation was better than Bushnell's animations, so Brock would use their animatronics to open his first store in the Antioch Shopping Center in Kansas City, Missouri. There was many lawsuits between Bushnell and Brock for 2 years until it finally settled. Brock chose the Wolfpack 5 as the animatronic group as he's seen in IAAPA, and changed one of the characters, Queenie, to Minnie Mozzarella to fit the pizza theme. The group also featured Wolfman, Fats Gorilla, Dingo Star, and Beach Bear. Let's pause for a moment. I want to change the modern recording to an 80s recording to better fit the decade we're in now. Alright, that's better. Showbiz Pizza Place opened on March 3rd, 1980 in Kansas City, Missouri, with a lot of similarities to Pizza Time. On August 14th, 1980, Showbiz opened its second store in Jacksonville, Florida, containing CEI's Showbiz exclusive show, The Rocket Fire Explosion. The characters featured the Wolfpack 5 and Hard Luck Bears, including Rolf and Earl, Duke LaRue, Fats Geronimo, Beach Bear, Mitzi Mozzarella, Billy Bob, and the Looney Bird. Showbiz worked as a 3-stage show compared to Pizza Time in order to be more flexible with how shows are presented. The second location changed its once popular disco room to the sports room to have parents watch sports while their kids play. Success depleting in the early 80s. With the video game crash in 1983, Pizza Time lost nearly $50 million and Atari lost $539 million. Bushnell responded by filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy and resigning from the company in 1984. The war between Pizza Time and Showbiz was very chaotic, with Pizza Time switching the portrait show to the characters standing on one stage for more focus in the show. While Showbiz was making some changes, it was an ongoing conflict through the early 1980s until the 90s hit. When the 90s rolled around, Showbiz bought Pizza Time Theater and rebranded it since they needed some rebranding because they was getting stale fast by 1992. The new name to the companies combining is the iconic name Chuck E. Cheese's. Chuck E. got a brand new look with the inside of many locations refurbished with a new Studio C stage with updated animatronics. It was booming through the 90s and early 2000s, with having more things to do along with adding a ticket system to earn many prizes on that glorious wall of antiques.
I like the skee ball. I like the basketball. The rides. The games. The ball crawl. The pizza. And Chuck E. Cheese. Only one kid place has all of these.
Chuck E. Cheese's, where a kid can be a kid.
They beat out a major competitor that was an entertainment center with an indoor jungle gym with many hands-on activities for children called the Discovery Zone. It filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and the Chuck E. Cheese became the #1 family entertainment center. In 1995, they installed sky tubes, which I used to crawl up and down to explore them constantly, and increased the games, rides, and upgraded the prizes. Through the 2000s, the Chuck E. crew took an Avengers type look, which 2000s kids remember very fondly. Look at this dude. He's rocking his shorts, shirt, hat. They all represent the vibes you're getting from him, filled with coolness and edginess. I had my birthday party there, and it was special to stand in the presence of an anthropomorphic mouse. Now, let's move on to, oh god, look at this generic CGI wrap of boringness. It's like they took a character from a cheaply made stylized 3D film and pasted it onto the Chuck E. Cheese logo for a quick buck. In 2012, the Chuck E. Cheese company wanted to turn in a new direction to stay relevant, so they changed Chuck E. Cheese to 3D along with his voice and did a marketing push to change from what they were doing before. Sales dropped over the new look that led almost to the same situation as the Pizza Time Theater bankruptcy in the 80s. The rebranding could have been handled better in the long run, and now, to current day, with the COVID-19 situation, and Chuck E. Cheese filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy on June 25th, 2020, and previous CEO Tom Leverton was replaced with David McPhillips, who was the president of international development at Six Flags Entertainment Corporation. They have gained revenue by closing some locations delivering food through DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats. Their birthday parties are what make up most of their finances, and parents are not going to throw a party over there during a pandemic. Chuck E. Cheese is an entertainment center for kids of all ages, and even though Chuck E. Cheese's future is up in the clouds, it still touched the hearts of many as the greatest place to have fun and be a kid.
Smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Food and games and all kinds of creatures for a taste of Pizza Time Theater. Smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese. You can smile.
Make believe you're in outer space. Throw a party at Chuck E.'s place.
You can smile.
Watch the gang go wild. So much fun you can't help but smile. You can smile. Smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese. Food and games and all kinds of creatures. For a taste of Pizza Time Theater. You can smile America. Smile America. Smile America, say Chuck E. Cheese.
Even though I've stopped going to Chuck E. Cheese a long time ago because it got worse and I'm too old, but it remains as one of the United States' top entertainment establishments to visit. It perfectly takes the aspects of a restaurant, an arcade, and animatronics to mush them together brilliantly that revolutionized the entertainment industry. This new idea inspired many franchises to spawn off in different incarnations with or without the animatronics, including Round 1, Brunswick Zone, Dave & Buster's, Odyssey Fun World, GameWorks, etc. Chucky had an impact on many people to have positive attitudes and continues to spread its inspirations on the world. It'll be a matter of time to say if they'll get rid of it or not, so let's just hope it survives for many years to come.
There you go. Bye! Have fun!
Looking for a really good way to make sure your kid's fun is safe? Chuck E. Cheese's Kid Check Stand. They play, you relax.
Where a kid can be a kid.
Again, make sure to subscribe if you're new and click the bell for more content. That's it for the Chuck E. Cheese journey, and remember to keep your chill rate 100.